Welcome to the Beyond Deadlines podcast, where we tackle challenges that schedule leaders come across on a day-to-day basis. My name is Greg Lawton, and I'm the CEO of an AI schedule management company called Nodes and Links.
My name is Micah Pipo, and I'm a schedule manager for Intel.
Each podcast is designed to give you strategies and tactics that you can implement right away. And today, Micah is in the hot seat. So I recently posted about working from home, which went crazy. 48,000 people saw it in the space of a couple of days. For the listeners, I said four things. I said 41% of full-time workers work full or part-time from home. 98% of people surveyed in a Forbes survey wanted to work from home in some kind of way. 16% of all companies now are fully remote, which is a crazy statistic if you think about it. And 22% of New York office space is totally empty. So, Micah, you've been brought in as the head of scheduling for a large general contractor to implement some form of working from home policy. How would you do it?
This is a great one that I've struggled with recently because I feel like what I want and what I think is right has teetered back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
For this general contractor, am I supporting the entire general contractor, or am I working in a specific vertical like advanced manufacturing, commercial, or something like that?
Let's make this as easy as possible. Let's say that you're working in an individual vertical and you're also working in the individual vertical of scheduling. And let's say that HR have given you free rein. So there's no questions around general policy, unionization, etc. It is you have, let's say, 80 people working for you, and you have free rein to decide what the working from home policy is.
Okay. And 80 people working for me right now, are they located on project sites? Are they located at their houses now? Where's these 80 people at?
It's actually a mix because COVID happened. So when COVID happened, people started working from home, and then since COVID, there hasn't been clear guidance on what people should do. So some people are in the office most of the time, some people are on sites most of the time, some people work from home most of the time. And for fairness, you now need to implement some kind of policy.
I think where I start with this is there are two groups of people in which I need to really effectively communicate this to, whatever change I come up with. The first group is those 80 schedulers. You want to be able to provide them clarity. You want to be able to provide them with a sense of structure. And I don't want to have to backtrack and come back and go forward and backwards. And I mean, these are people's lives, and people have moved and they have families. And so that one group, that's one of the groups that I'd really want to make sure that I'm communicating very clearly with whatever decision makes forward. The second group is you're at a general contractor now where there's a lot of people for decades have moved their family around project to project because they had to be on site. So there will be a culture built up that will always look at this new group and whatever this new policy is and ask, what about me? I think when you go forward and I look at how I would do this strategy, I would focus on making sure that my communications handled both of these groups. The people who I'm going to be interacting with, the superintendents and project managers and cost estimators that may not be able to get this policy, and then also the people who are, this is actually going to affect their lives. Now, when I think about construction, I think to me, the easiest way to provide clarity is to set out a couple different roles within scheduling that would basically be a hybrid role that leans more towards visiting sites, a hybrid role that's probably a 50-50, and then a full work from home role where travel is either optional or maybe like 20%. When I look at the different positions potentially within scheduling, you would basically be assigned one of those roles, and you would have to choose whether you wanted this role or if there's a different role available for you, or this isn't going to work out because you're not in a role. I can't see a fully This is the one I go back and forth on. I can't see a fully work from home general contractor scheduling because at a certain point in time, I need my schedulers to interact with superintendents. I want them to physically go see the jobs we're building, and I
Hmm.
want them out on the sites to some cadence. There's that on site scheduler role. I don't think always has to be a full time, I'm sitting at the job site 24/7, but it does need that hybrid position. Now, if you have regional schedulers or people working in specialties like commissioning, that's where that could be a 50-50, where maybe they're not dedicated to a project, but they're working on overall processes. And then you have fully work from home, type individuals that could be working on higher level initiatives. Hey, we're going to go implement this piece of scheduling tech software. We're going to go do this or do that. And so that's probably where I would start with, is a strategy that covers those three buckets, establishes those three roles, gets people's feedback, communicate to that, solution with them, and then, start transitioning to how that would fit out.
I like that you've segmented it into different what I'll actually refine the language a little bit, role classification types, because you'll have roles that are classified as a certain policy of working from home in what you've just said. But I want to challenge you more on those three roles. So flipping the frame of reference. Let's say that I'm the CEO and I forced you have to have a fully remote scheduling role. What would we need to believe for a fully remote scheduling role to be not more than a possibility, but the optimum? What assumptions do we have here that you're saying mean that we can't have a fully remote role? We need to flip them around.
The first assumption you would make is that since this is a general contractor and you're in the business of creating schedules,
Mm-hmm.
that you can create schedules remotely just as well as you can if someone's out on site, that it's just as effective. You get increased fidelity. The other piece is that the scheduler will be integrated with the team just as well, be just as trusted, just as utilized, just as referenced to keep that schedule accuracy up. And I think the last one is that the schedulers will maintain an understanding of the scope that's being built.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of these digital tools where you can get the 3D scans of the site and you can be immersed in it. But this is where the tug and pull happens with me. There's so much value with, at certain stages of your career, being out on site, walking the job, speaking to superintendents, seeing how the building's being built, that I don't get that out of the virtual world yet. Those are the three big ones that I would have to then believe to be fully work from home. Now, I think there are different styles of scheduling, and there's different things that I could go back and basically say, these are the things we're going to lose or miss out on because we're going fully, remote.
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay with it? If a CEO came in and said, Micah, no one can travel anymore, we're going fully remote on scheduling, there's tremendous benefits there. And then there's some potential losses. And as long as we're aligned on it, I think it'd be an interesting experiment to go try.
So I'll give you a situation in which a fully remote scheduling role could exist, and I'd love your opinion on this because it's just again framing the situation in a different way. What if you had a large project that required 8 schedulers and you had one on site full time that was integrated and trusted by the project team, and you had 7 either working from home or overseas that did the grunt work that one person. So you've segmented the role. So rather than having 8 people doing scheduling and team management, you've got one person team managing and 7 people scheduling. Is that a possibility?
Yeah. Yeah. To me, as a constant optimizer and improver, I would look at what are the value adds that this person is providing truly on site. And then what are the 8 people doing? And then I would look towards, well, is there any way if it's just, data processing or wherever it
Hmm.
is, how can we get it at a lower cost or fully automate it? And I would actually be tasking those 8 people who are doing those roles to then also be working on how can they, vastly improve their roles. Because if I'm working at a general contractor and our book is continuing to go up and we're continuing to accept more jobs, I don't want to increase headcount linearly. We do one job, I hire one scheduler.
Hmm.
And that's typically, I would say, industry standard. I want to do one job, hire point 0.1 scheduler, and then 0.05
Yep.
scheduler, and then 0.04 scheduler. So I definitely think there's a ton of loads of combinations where this works and makes sense. And a lot of this depends on the owner. Does the owner or client have an appetite for this? And then how are you setting this up for success? And it's got to be that one person who's out on site. I'm always conscious of the culture and the feelings of the other people, because
Hmm.
how jealous would you be if you're the one person out on site and you're there at 5:30 in the morning with the rest of the team and you're grinding it out there on the project site, and then you have 7 other schedulers that are working from home? I, I gotta imagine that's going to create an interesting dynamic. So if there a reward system, or is the carrot big enough for the person to be on site to really be there and be helping out and
Hmm.
contributing, versus that person's just, I want that guy's job or gal's job. They get to work from home every day.
Completely. Well, taking that reward system and just coming full circle back to the uh, your opening statement. So there's advantages and disadvantages to working from home. And on the post that I posted, a lot of the comments were actually saying about early careers, about how would you actually go and learn the craft if you weren't sitting next to John or Susan 8 hours a day learning by osmosis. How would you implement development plans and promotion pathways if you did have a, let's call it a hybrid work from home policy?
Well, would you mind if we just let's go fully work from home?
Okay, let's go fully. Actually, that
Because
may, yeah, the
I'm
extremes
gonna
allow
keep
us.
on, yeah, no, because I'm gonna keep on leaning back to old school Micah. I mean, like, you have to be on site to learn it. Let's hop in our DeLorean and let's get to the future here. To me, you can learn. People should be able to learn and adapt anywhere. I mean, we have plenty enough examples out in the world and in history now, of fully remote teams that are learning, growing, and building. The structure you put in place to allow people to say, here are the steps in which you're going to learn and grow. This is the growth path for you. If people are shown a path, they will walk down the path. Typically fully remote, and I have a fully remote scheduling team, and let's say I have a junior scheduler who reviews 360 photos and works with the team, does, small micro schedules that are part of a bigger schedule, reviews progresses and creates some regular reports. What's their next level of progression? Well, it's probably to senior scheduler. Well, I put specifically in the role, let's say we're doing nuclear power plants. You need to understand this electrical distribution system and this, cooling system and all of these scopes, you know, to go up to that next level that, Greg is sitting at as senior scheduler. If people were shown that path and they were given a clear enough, like, this is how you get up, they're going to go set up the one-on-ones with the mechanical and electrical engineer to go figure out the systems. They're going to go study the diagrams and drawings. They're going to go review the 360 photos and work up that path. And if you promote that culture and say, listen, you know, Greg's doing a great job. He has learned these systems. He can schedule very proficiently. He's awesome. I think people will work up that path, and eventually that will just become the norm. And so I don't really fully buy. I think it's helpful, but I don't fully buy in that you need to have it.
I would agree on this. What I've found transitioning from a company that's working in the office to work fully remotely is that you lose the buffer that allows for lazy leadership. You can't just say, please sit next to Susan for 8 hours and figure stuff out. you actually need to think through what are the micro skills and competencies that I need these individuals to develop, and how do I put not just the training, but also the opportunities to practice and exhibit those skills and competencies in place. It's the whole tell, show, watch, review cycle. You need to have formal programs in place that have that.
Yeah, I think the tell and show, to me, when I think about a work from home team, I think the managers and leadership much, much more need to be able to engage with their workers and get them motivated and provide them what they need to go do their jobs. Or else you're sitting at your
Mhm.
house, you have everything else in the world you could go do. And even when you're in the office, it's the same thing. Here's a great example. How many times have you been sitting in a meeting? You sit there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, general status update meeting, but it's held at a certain time period. Everyone's supposed to log in and watch the meeting, but there's no feedback, there's no interaction, there's no questions. It's just status update. Yeah, they send the slides out afterwards, but of course, there's a bunch of stuff mentioned in the meeting that isn't in the slides. Well, newsflash, there's technology that exists today that allows you to record meetings and then send them out later. And whenever you do this, people will be like, well, people won't show up to the meetings. Kind of one of these things where it's like, why doesn't simple economics, supply and demand, kick off and realize if people aren't showing up to the meetings, it's because they're not great meetings. If no one's speaking in meetings, it's because there's nothing to speak about. Cancel the meeting, have someone record an individual, call, then post it, and people can watch it at their own time. And then think of ways of meetings and status updates or whatever that are actual valuable to the team. In the office, people get lazy because they just assume by people meandering into a meeting, or when it's like a hybrid and people jump on the call, that the meeting is a good meeting. If your goal is to get feedback and have people talk and no one's talking, it's a bad meeting. So cancel it, move on. If I was leading a team of managers, I'd be looking specifically at maybe some unique or different metrics, which I'd love your feedback, Greg, on some of them. Like, what would you really be judging then? Because the old way of doing it is basically this kind of draconian, "Oh, everyone will show up and you'll watch the meeting."
Mhm.
But I think when you're going fully, work from home, you need to bring a better game.
So I'll break our rules and I'll jump in here on my personal learnings running a work from home company. Um, First of all, um, we are absolutely militant in deleting meetings. Meetings suck the energy out of people if they're just general meetings, and um, I actually prefer that people in my organization have lots of time free in their diaries, because do you know what? We can actually just call each other. And whenever there's an update to be had, like a briefing meeting, a team update, we will actually just record it and send it. And then if it's an absolute must, if it's like a health and safety briefing, then do you know what? You have systems in place to monitor who's watched, how much they've watched it, and have tests at the end to see if they've clicked it. Yes, you do that for things like health and safety or anti-bribery or anti-corruption policies and these kinds of things where you just have to monitor it. But the biggest thing for me is who you hire for. So you hire for very self-disciplined, self-motivated, ambitious, and intelligent and moral people. You and think of the opposite. You don't hire for undisciplined people that need constant supervision, who are generally not intelligent enough to figure out different solutions to problems, and who you constantly have to monitor and look at. Now, obviously, I might be in a microcosm because I'm not running a 100,000 person organization, but we're talking about an 80-person scheduling team here, which then comes down to the rewards that and the promotion frameworks and the culture that you're actually trying trying to promote in this and why you're doing working from home in the first place. So this
Yeah,
is why
one
I
thing
said
that oh, go ahead.
this is why I said before that working from home deletes the buffer of lazy leadership. You actually have to think these things through deeply. And I'm sure you'll come onto this. Like, if you do it properly, the benefits are immense. Like, the amount of time that's wasted in a general day on site or in an office is unbelievable. Like, I used to have this hypothesis that I could get an entire workday done in about 2.5, 3 hours. And I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure everyone would nod at that. It's
yeah,
like, cool.
yeah. One idea I had that popped into my head was the schedule status update meeting.
Oh, God,
Let's,
yes.
let's think about the schedule status update meeting. A lot of times you'll have a client and a GC. The GC will come in and put up the schedule, like present it on, in the call, and maybe they'll put it up on a big whiteboard, or maybe there's a presentation there, and they talk through standard points that everyone already knows. Only thing that's ever really discussed is if there was a big blow up and the schedule is late. These schedule status update meetings, I've sat in countless hours of these, are an hour to 3 hours long. Well, I'm thinking in every single one is this doesn't need to be a meeting. You could have sent this report offline. You could have recorded this yourself. I could watch it at 3x if I want to go through it. You could tag certain individuals at certain points. Hey, project manager who's overseeing the HVAC system, you listen here. Project manager who's overseeing procurement, you listen here. They could be tagged in the video spots. So then that whole time space of this 1 to 3 hour meeting where the actual important stuff gets lost, you can then concentrate on what is the actual important stuff. I watched it, but I really need to talk about this detail. So let's get on and hash out this one really important thing. And I remember I was working on a project in APAC, and their status schedule calls, I'm not kidding you, had 150 people in it.
What?
150 people would call in to a standard like GC client owner status schedule update meeting. And I
How much am I
remember,
being paid per hour? Because if it's less than
yeah,
1,000, I'm not sitting on that.
and here's an even better one. We were sitting in the meeting, one of the person presented whatever they presented, and then they get off the call or they get done presenting. But their little window still stays up.
Mm-hmm.
This person started shopping for doorbells. They're still presenting their screen. The person's now talking, but the little thing's going on. People are trying to ping him, being like, hey, man, you're shopping for doorbells. I mean, luckily it was just doorbells. But then he finally stops, like, oh, you get busted. It just shows you the engagement of the care people are having to that call. And if you take that 150 people and you add up a base rate for it, these meetings are costing hundreds of thousands of dollars with zero value. If I'm leading a work from home team, I am asking all the questions you asked at the beginning. I'm trying to flip this on its head, trying to really focus on those 80 people, position them in places for success, build a culture that has grit, wants to push the bounds, and has a little chip on their shoulder because they work from home. I bring that kind of mentality of we're special. We have to prove that this works. We have to go out there every day and show people that we can do this. Because every single turn, going back to that other group of people who aren't working from home, are going to doubt us. They're going to talk down to it. They're going to be jealous of it. And so I'd really focus on how could I engage my employees, get them to buy into this system and make it their own. Because I think that's where you're mentioning earlier of giving people time to space and think. People will make it their own. They'll think of a cooler way to do their presentation or a better way to do their schedule update or or how can we strategically shift our team to be even better. And when you give people that sort of carrot, more so than money and punishment and sticks, but go create, go show me what you can do, I think you really get a lot of value out of it. And I think that would be a huge upside for work from home that you wouldn't get for in the office work regardless, because it's not a one-to-one comparison.
Mm-hmm.
That chip on your shoulder doesn't exist. I'm going to show someone how good it is to work in the office. I mean, like, no one's going to do that.
I think you've made a very interesting point there about the fact that this is new for this industry, so people will prove themselves. But the flow of the conversation has also actually maybe shown that the question of how would you do working from home brings a conversation that's been had since the dawn of project management, which is, let's not sit in rubbish meetings. And maybe this presents an opportunity to allow change to thrive. Because in the status quo, change doesn't normally thrive. But if you make a significant shift, like even 2 days, 3 days a week working from home, that's enough of a change where you actually need to start thinking about the policies around meetings, reporting, this. And if they're working from home, you'll have technology that allows this, the cloud-based technologies and the communication technologies, which then also now allow for recordings and snippets. And I think maybe a working from home conversation just morphed into a meeting discipline conversation and a cultural conversation.
Yeah, I think you're totally right, because when you think about when you're sitting in your office and you're sitting in your cubicle and you're doing your work, who cares? Like, no one's bothering
Mm-hmm.
you. But it all comes down to then, where do you intersect with people? The whole, you meet at the water cooler, and you have a conversation. Some of these large construction projects, you can sit in totally different. You're not seeing anyone at a water cooler that you need to talk with. You're at two different trailers in Trailer City, and you're just not getting up and walking 5 trailers over to go, oh, check what latest water they have. There's some false narratives there. And then the other thing I would say is, a lot of times where I've seen this happen, fail, or people complain about it, is because they actually didn't change anything. They allowed people to work from home, but they carried on in the same way. They didn't,
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, we're going to actually record meetings. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. They just, oh, we'll do the exact same thing. And we saw it during COVID. Just did the exact same thing, but you're working from home, and no one actually tried to get in and optimize anything that happened. I think that's the big takeaway for me, that if I ever was put in this position to do a fully work from home team, or if I was a work from home worker, you have to fundamentally change a lot of what you previously did. And it's the simple things: the meetings, the emails, the data, the reporting, and look at going a lot more towards workflows of approvals. So, you're sitting in a meeting looking for someone to nod. Like, they should just click a button for approved. That's, to me, where I really hope we do see a bigger change towards this, because I think the scale is still tilted one way. I think it's holding back people getting in the industry. Why would you want to be a construction startup scheduler, now that we're talking about it, if I got to fly to Timbuktu and sit in the middle of nowhere and grind it out in a trailer, when I could just
Mm-hmm.
as easily take my degree, a nice cushy office, or sit at home and work from home? And so I think providing those opportunities for people, and they're coming, but I hope we see more of them.
Yeah, well, supply and demand. The wonderful thing about capitalism is supply and demand will figure out the problem for us, because
Yeah.
either companies will keep saying, no, you have to come on site, at which point either the job is so amazingly entertaining or the pay is so crazy extreme that people are happy to do that, or companies will go, well, actually, we can't attract the new generation of talent, or we are breaking our cost base by having to pay these enhanced rates. So we have to go work from home in some way, and the battle and the blood will be spilt on the bidding field. If
Yeah.
you're coming in and saying, "Well, I'm going to have to pay everyone 20% extra to go on site," and someone else is going, "Well, I've actually been creative and I've cut my cost by 10% because I don't have to pay for an office, and I'll still have all of the people." Okay, well, you'll be
I was
priced
just
out.
thinking, another thing I would go into the VP or the CEO or whoever I was reporting to. I would say we're going to do both. We're going to go work from home, and I'm going to pay people 20% more to work from home. And I will
Mm-hmm.
find and create the best, most talented scheduling team this world has ever seen, because no one will be able to compete with me. Not the Googles, not the Facebooks, no one. I'm now letting you work from home hybrid, and I'm going to pay you more in a world of scarcity, where there's thousands of scheduling jobs that aren't being filled every single month. Shout out to the Beyond Deadlines newsletter, where we send out 3 every week. You would dominate.
Yeah. Beautiful. And I think that might be a wonderful endpoint to leave this conversation. So thank you, Micah, for that. You were in the hot seat this week. And for everyone else listening, if you've enjoyed this, please subscribe or share with someone who you think might benefit. Sharing really helps us. Our statistics look very nice if you share. And as some people have been doing, if you want us to discuss a certain topic, please just drop us a note on LinkedIn and we'll try and fit it into what we talk about. Then with that, have a wonderful rest of your day.